had on the chat, what are the features of risk appetite? The first thing you have to realize is it goes beyond the tolerance for losses, okay? So don't limit, literally like the first line of my poll, don't limit your risk appetite to what you don't want, okay? You don't want reputation damage, you don't want to lose data, you don't want to be sick. It's pretty clear what you don't want. But really the idea is how much do you want or don't you want something? In other way, how do you trade off the benefit of risk taking and the cost of risk taking, and the cost and the return of risk taking? So this risk return trade off is really at the core of a lot of decisions in business. And in risk. And our next topic next week will be specifically on decision making, because there are lots of benefits to taking risks. And in a professional environment, I'm going to keep it at this scope at the moment, means less risk in a sense, means more business, more clients, more speed. Now there's a downside of it. So if you push it too hard, things might break. So what is the downside of risks? And so that's the trade-off. Now, how do you limit this downside? You limit this downside by different ways of mitigation. The most radical way of mitigation is reduction of exposure. And I just said I'm going to limit my speech to professional environment, but I cannot resist here the parallel with COVID, okay? The reduction here, the risk reductions that is chosen by most of the governments in the world is to reduce exposure, okay? People stay away from each other, you stay in our living room, okay? But you stay in our living room, that limits your activity. Now we're all finding a bypass and thank to the technology. But you could see that if you reduce your exposure, it's a massive way of reducing risk, but it's a massive way of reducing everything else as well. So you shut down both benefits and costs. So the other way of mitigating risks is to preventive controls, so before the events happened, or to corrective controls. Difference between preventative and corrective controls in a car safety environment, for instance, is the difference between your speed reductions that reduces the likelihood of an accident and your seat belt of your airbag, which is a corrective controls. So you can understand here that one of the important features of risk appetite is to link that to controls. And so you have, and I know from the poll also that KRI is a very much a topic of interest for you. They're monitored by appetite KRIs. And I said to you that I'll make a distinction between appetite KRIs and preventive KRIs, because appetite KRIs are basically the monitoring mechanism, the way by which you're going to control, you're going to be able to assess whether your firm operates within risk appetite, which is very much the mandate of the board in corporate governance, and also the requirement of all the financial services with regards to their regulator. What the regulator will ask you, and we have regulators on the line, and we have a lot of regulated firms on the line, you want to see if the firm operates in the limits of what it states. And so you're going to have these indicators around the limits that you have set. And these limits are around exposure, that I've just mentioned, control effectiveness, and then the how do you know it works type of questions on the impact of these measures, incidents and near misses. And again, apologies for making the parallel with the pandemic that is so high on our so top of mind at the moment. The equivalent will be, and we have, at least in the UK, we have the news daily. I'm sure that it's the same in the other countries. We have limited our exposure, we increase our control sort of, and let's see how the incidents evolve. So basically how many contingent we have and how many cases of death do we have in the country. And so that's the checking of the measure. So you could see that the government is basically doing this, but not, maybe not so much in an explicit way. Okay, so just checking the chat a little bit. You love innovative way to report KRIs. Yes, well, there's for those of you who speak French, I have a French webinar on reporting, and the difference between the KRI measure and the risk appetite measure, it's coming. So You have here the structure of what I've posted on LinkedIn on Monday to present this course. You have your risk appetite statement. What's very important as well, and missed sometimes by a number of firms, is to align your risk appetite to your business objectives and your priorities. And so this is a question for you. Is your risk appetite higher or lower for your core activities and for your growing areas? So intuitively, you tend to say, well, if it's your mainstream business, you're going to be very careful. And then if it's a growing activity, it's a new product, it's a new country of development, it's a growing phase, your risk appetite will be higher. That's generally the case, but not necessarily. All I'm saying here, and we have pressed for time, but I have longer courses coming up, I'll show you as well. I just leave that to your reflection. And if in your firm you haven't aligned or you haven't reflected so much how the risk-taking, the risk appetite is aligned to your business, do that would be my advice. And so you have the 3 ways of expressing your risk appetite that I've mentioned: exposure limits, key controls, and incident budgets. And so the metrics around this, I have examples coming up next slide, don't worry. Metrics around this will be the so-called appetite KRI. So when you're reporting the board, and I know UAE is listening to us, and Saudis, and I've seen a number of reporting in this part of the world as well, but it's by all means quite common. You have the risk appetite statements, and then you have the metrics that shows that this is respected in the business.